Startups who haven't seen a crisis, I think will probably learn, could be a very hard lesson when they face a really serious crisis. So it's important to do it yourself. I don't think you can learn it from a textbook.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, before we talk about all of this, considering you founded MakeMyTrip, and now you're saying 23 years back, how did the idea even come into place?
So for me, I think it was a culmination of 2 or 3 different things. The first thing was I'd worked 3 different companies after an MBA, 2 very large companies. My last job was with GE Capital, which is a fantastic company, great place to learn scale. But I did realize by then that I'm not a big company guy. So my one thing inside my mind was smaller company, maybe apna kuch karna hai, but it was honestly not that big a driver. For me, the big driver was the internet. The internet presented itself as something which will change everything. And dare I say, I'm getting the same feeling again now with AI in a different way. It is going to change a lot. I don't think we should trivialize this. This is not something like cryptocurrency where we think it could be faddish. No, this is going to find its way. It's pervasive into everything like water. So I think the internet presented that opportunity that, hey, now you can do something of your own. You can put all your life savings, which wasn't a lot at that time, but you can get funding on a business plan. You don't have to set up a factory or something else, something which needs tons of capital. This seemed like something which no one has done. So therefore, you are as good or bad as anyone else. And maybe there was some confidence, misplaced or not, I don't know, which came from the fact that, you know, you've gone through some companies which are really good, learned a lot, your MBA arms you with a degree, and I think that's what I say to all young entrepreneurs. You know, do it when you're young. I don't know what's the right formula. Is it right out of college or is it after working a bit? For me, it was after working a bit, and that paid off while scaling up, not while starting. While starting, you can start very young, but when scaling up, I think that really helps when you want to attract talent, when you want to build a team, you want to build something durable and for the future. That helped me a lot. So I think it's a combination of these 2 or 3 which gave me the thing, and travel was something which was, I think I've always loved. So it was something which, yeah, that's a good point. I'm a little crazy about travel. So I think it's the combination of factors. So
great. And Prashant, in that sense, the internet must have given birth to your company as well, right? Because traditionally it's your chemist who you go to the prescription with, sometimes even not, right? When you're picking up just your regular disciplines, etc. Such a large unorganized sector which you brought to everyone's phone. What did you think was the right opportune time, or did you think when you launched was the right opportune time? How did the idea come about?
So see, I was actually in the US in 2009 and working in the healthcare sector there as a consultant. And one thing was very clear, that the US health system, for all its faults, every single thing is very sophisticated and very technology was playing already a decent role. And we felt that the Indian ecosystem will go through an evolution, and it has to, because so much good comes out when you actually have the power of knowledge that is consolidated in that data and you can learn from it. And so we felt the Indian ecosystem will go through that transition. The startup world had begun. So in our case, actually, internet was not the big thing. It was the mobile. The mobile revolution had begun. And what that did was, internet was in the hands of people, and it was where they were, where they wanted to be. And for a business like 1mg, that was absolutely critical, because it starts with clicking the picture of the prescription. You can't do it on the desk. Like the earlier versions of mail order pharmacies as they used to exist in the US, or other parts of the world, that used to be fax and scan and all of that, which is very, very cumbersome. Mobile changed the game, that you could capture that kind of information, and this ecosystem had to at some point in time get digitized, organized, and data was going to play a role. So when we thought of what would be the one sector where we feel fundamental change will happen, it seemed pretty natural at that time that it will be healthcare, a large sector with a lot of pain points, not too many people from the technology side trying to address that. And the more we spent time at it, the more we got excited by it. And then the way it works is that almost, at least in our case, it wasn't like we came with that this is going to work. We came with a hypothesis, but most of the journey was about learning, keep on understanding what is going on, how it can be done better. And one of the most fundamental learnings for us was that the big problem in healthcare, not only in India, but probably around the world, is that, see, it starts from a fundamental point. Nobody likes the healthcare companies or healthcare that they get. And it's a very strange thing. If something is making you live longer, better, it should be a sector that is more admired, not less. But the fundamental problem in healthcare, especially services side, is that it's not designed historically with the consumer at the center. It's either designed with the provider or the payer, the insurance company at the center. And we felt, I came from FMCG background before business school, and it seemed very natural that why not create a healthcare model with the patient at the center and everything else around it. In 2009, it was considered some people thought it was a radical idea, some people thought it came out of pure naivety, and it could be a bit of both. But it felt that this is the way it should be done. And with technology, with data, with context, all of that was kind of becoming possible. So we decided, okay, this is a space that looks interesting enough, a problem big enough to be solved. It has to get solved because it's solvable. And we jumped in. And however, as one of the problems or the things about the regulated sector and entrepreneurship is you are trying to disrupt status quo, but it's a regulated sector. And the job of the regulator is to preserve status quo. So it goes through a longer transition cycle than a lot of other sectors at times, but I think at the end of it, it's worth it.
Right. But talking about your journey, your aha moment came in soon after, right? When Tata's backed your company. Your company is now called Tata 1MG. So tell me, I mean, how did that happen?
Well, soon after, the journey started in 2009, and 2021 is when the Tatas came in with investment into 1MG. I think it was a very opportune time for us. One, it's a brand. Tata Group has been built on trust, and that's a very, very important thing, a 150-year-old legacy of doing things the right way. Very much resonated with how we liked to build our company, and I think we felt that our long-term vision to create India's most admired and impactful healthcare company, we could not find a better partner than the Tata Group. And for many years, Tata Group looked at healthcare more as a charity, with a lot of support that healthcare ecosystem got, but they expressed an interest to get into the healthcare service delivery side of pharmacy diagnostics, and found us to be a suitable partner. We felt all that we wished to create a good quality healthcare company in India that would get a big step up with a partner like the Tata Group. So that's how the deal happened.
Deep, when you talk about qualifications for startups, one thing is clear, you've got to be an MBA, as both of you are.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree. This is just 2 out of 2. I don't agree. I actually think going forward, you should think very hard about doing an MBA. Yeah, I think, there's an opportunity cost of time and capital. And honestly, maybe if you had a third person here, you should have got one from education. So by the way, I couldn't help but think how our two businesses couldn't have been more diametrically opposite during COVID time. So we were obliterated, right? We were flattened.
You were going through a bust and it was boom time for him.
And I remember, and we've known each other for a long time. And I was talking to Prashant during those days because we were also working on a very interesting project together. It was Arogya Setu, actually, both of us. So it was really fascinating. And I've never seen him busier because they were just so busy with everything that was going on. And we were creating new things and we were obviously cutting costs. So, but you should have a third seat here, which was education. And I think the way education is going to get revolutionized through technology, possibly more than anything else, is something which people have to be, again, very cognizant of. So are you better off tomorrow picking up 5 courses from Coursera, Khan Academy, anywhere else, IIMs, they're all giving online courses. Go for programs and arm yourself for the brave new world. Or do you want to still, are you ready to give 2 years or 1 year? There are many good 1-year MBAs now. It's worth thinking about. So I would not say it's the prescription. It just so happened. We had to
Prashant
change.
wants to say something,
Totally echo that. I think education needs to go through a very, very big revamp how it happens, because what is important is to know the process of learning. Whatever application you run would be outdated by the time you hit the market anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's all, everything is just getting reimagined in ways that is hard to
world's
fathom
changing every
also.
minute. Yeah, absolutely.
Skills that you will require to navigate the new world, online or any other world, are fundamentally changing. So at the, when we were growing up, I think at least us, sorry, not you, at that point of time, most people in my generation and lower will be very strong in India with mental math. Right? This generation, I see my own kids, it won't be the same because they had a calculator which was allowed to be used. We weren't allowed a calculator. We took great pride in knowing our mental math, which probably helps in some sort of way. Going ahead, I don't think either is relevant. We are talking about
There's Chat GPT for everything.
Chat GPT and much, much more. So I think, but the skills that you now need is what are the right questions to ask? Or how do I analyze all the data out there? The problem today is there's too much data. And what to glean and what to pick out. So, but that's another topic.
Yeah, but we're digressing here. Okay, so coming back to startups, right? He got massive funding. He got that acknowledgement from the Tatas. But for you, the VCs were wanting the money back ASAP, right? It was way before startups were called startups. So how did the journey then move on from there?
Okay, I'll give a very short version because I don't think we have time for the long version. So we went through our winter, 2001 to 2005 was tapasya, and belief in, something is out there. And I can tell you, for any founder, the toughest thing is not that I am going through this journey. The toughest thing which keeps you up at night is that there's a bunch of people who are believing in you, that you know where to go.
Yeah.
And that's very scary. So any founder, actually, that is what keeps you up at. People say, what keeps you up at night? Not, you'll say, okay, tomorrow, even if we have to wrap up, I'll figure out something else to do. But what about those 20, 30, 40, 50 people who are out there, who believe in you and have placed their implicit trust in you and saying, show us the way kind of thing. So that's scary. So luckily, tapasya paid off. 2005, fundamentally, two things changed. One is funding scenario changed a lot overall for internet. I ate humble pie and went back and took some VC money because I realized to build a brand in India, you can't do it with less money. It's important. Also, for us, the advent of low-cost carriers changed everything. So Air Deccan came about, I think, around 2004. And suddenly people were seeing these big advertisements, Air Deccan, Spice, Indigo, they all came and they said 999, Delhi, Bangalore, Delhi. And he's saying, I want that. You called up your travel agent saying, I want 999. The travel agent didn't want to sell 999 because he or she made very little money on that. Thin margin, if at all any. Secondly, you had to give money up front. So let's say, Aisha's bought the ticket, said, I want to go to Bangalore. The travel agent trusts Aisha, bought the ticket. Aisha changes her mind for different reasons, whatever, genuine reasons. Travel agent is out of pocket, the money is gone, he has to chase you. You might pay up, but for everyone honest Aisha, there'll be 2 other people who will not pay. So the travel agent had no incentive to sell low-cost carriers. I think we seized that opportunity, which was our aha moment, to borrow your phrase. We built direct connects with every low-cost carrier, as well as APIs of GDS companies. So what you see today is not very different from what you saw in 2005. Put Delhi, Bangalore, Delhi, put your dates. You got all the choices. So for the first time, I think in Indian travel history, the traveler was in control. Fundamentally different from the travel agent being in control. Even if you sat with the travel agent, it was a green and black cryptic screen, you could not understand it. Travel agent saw it. So the travel agent would say, ye available nahi hai. And you had no choice. Yeah. Today you are in control, and in 2005 also you made a choice. Do I want to pay 1,000 rupees more and get meals and extra legroom and go at a convenient time? Do I want to save 1,000 rupees, go at an unearthly hour with less legroom and no meals, but I could save total 2,000 rupees? But you made an informed choice. I think that really connected well with the consumer. And for us, there was no turning back. So 2005 to 2010 we IPO'd. And in those 5 years, we grew 25x. And that, I think, was then. And thereafter, it's been a good mix of both organic, inorganic growth. So can't complain. It's been good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're a brand recall. It's amazing with you guys. But Prashant, now, I mean, each time you open a pink paper or watch a business channel, there's also just so much focus and limelight around startups, right? I mean, everything from the crash that some of them have had the minute they listed, from what they listed to now what they're trading at, or for that matter, the kind of valuation downsizing some of them are facing. Do you also feel with a lot of fun comes a lot of pressure as well as a startup founder?
It should. I think for startups to succeed, by definition, there are a lot of new things that are being tried. It's not a tested business model for a while, and you need sometimes the freedom to make a few mistakes and luxury of some available capital to try out a bunch of things. So from a long-term overall perspective, these phases, I think, are actually par for the course. They're needed for the churn that needs to happen. Having said that, anybody who takes capital should feel the pressure to deliver, and I think most people do. In the ecosystem, when the capital liquidity is good, momentum is positive, people raise a lot of money, that is a good time to try out a lot of experiments, and then come phases like this. And it's a cycle, what we have seen not only around the world. This is the phase where actually a lot of the real businesses get built, and the value of that money actually comes to fore. So in that sense, it is, I think, a nature of the ecosystem that it has a period of some excesses, then it's a period of belt tightening. The churn happens, not everyone makes it to the next level, but the companies that come through these kind of phases, as Deep was mentioning earlier, they are the ones that have been through some deep forging, and they're resilient to actually build the large companies of the future. So we are still a very young ecosystem, and I would not be too harsh on the ecosystem for basically having a phase where money was so easily available. But why is it available is also very fundamental, is because investors see big growth in Indian opportunity. And for that, the money that is coming in wants the entrepreneurs to try out new business models, new things, and they're all smart investors who know that not everything will work out. Some of them will, some of them won't. Valuation will be high, valuation will be low. Those are all cost of capital discussions that not in the entrepreneur's control. So if capital is available, they will raise money. They will try out new things. When capital gets tight, they will tighten the belt, try and make sure their business stands on its own 2 feet.
But what's happening now is also that these business cycles that Prashant just spoke about are getting narrower and shorter by the day, right? From the COVID, to now, things have changed, and things have changed at a pace that none of us can catch up with. I mean, from the onboarding of these startups to their listing, to the kind of valuation frenzy that they were quoting at, and to now the path to profitability that they're all talking about, right? Because they have no option. It's the shareholder money out there. They've got some tough questions. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, and just before that, so I think Prashant made a great point, and it's not just startups. We love reading the headlines, and you and your group companies put them out there, and we have these big headlines, and people say, "Oh my God, so much money a little company has raised." Let's not forget that the largest companies in the world, through COVID and beyond, and tech companies particularly, the largest FANG companies or whatever you want to call them, each one of them has committed the same mistake that startups commit. Each one of them went and overinvested. You saw 2 quarters of COVID and you said, "Oh my God, everyone's spending so much time online now, so much more time, there's nothing else to do." Invested big time in people, like hired in droves, in thousands, invested a lot in new tech, which no one knew enough about, call it the metaverse, call it whatever else. And everyone now has been laying off in droves. Yeah. So it's a really, I mean, if the large companies we are talking about 3-digit, $100 billion plus kind of, valuations, if they couldn't figure it out, I mean, how can you blame a young startup? It's normal what happens. What I think is the caution, and Prashant, I don't know if you'll bear me out. I think the real thing out here is when you take a lot of money at a high valuation, you feel the pressure, yeah. When you somewhere wittingly or unwittingly hand over the decision-making powers to the big investor. And it works both ways. The smartest investors, and I've known now many private sector 4 investors very closely and then many public market investors. The best investors, particularly in the private space, are those who know what they don't know, and they are backing you because you know how to run your business. They don't fool themselves for a minute that they know Prashant's business better than him, even if they can write a massive check or my business better than me. They know it. They are the best investors. They speak very little in board meetings, maybe 1 or 2 things, and those are worth listening to, honestly. But somewhere entrepreneurs also start giving up because you have this big investor coming with a big reputation, coming sitting on your table, who's given you a check of maybe $100 billion, $50 million. You just somewhere think that the guy knows more than you. Not at all. He knows more than you about the universe
about
of
the
funding,
money. Yes.
about money business.
Yeah.
He or she doesn't know
About
even
your
a
business.
small percentage more than you about your business. So never give that up. And the investor actually doesn't want you. Now that shift, balance of power starts happening. And suddenly someone else is making decisions saying, higher, 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 and you're saying higher. And then you will be firing. And then I've spoken to at least half a dozen entrepreneurs. They're saying, you know, they forced our hand. And it's bullshit. Why did your hand get forced in the first place? You believed in your business. So I don't condone anyone. There you shouldn't have, because you should have said, hand on heart, do I really think I can grow into this revenue? But hang on, I gave them this business plan. Somewhere it got jacked up 50% or 40%, and I end off on it. Uske baad aapki shaamat hai, because you've got to now deliver on that plan. So I think that is where people lose the way. So part to profitability is inevitable. People won't keep funding, I think, forever. There's a premium on growth, but that shifts very quickly, and it shifts when you get a tough time to invest. Because then everyone says, hey, fend for yourself, this is how much money you've got. Again, every entrepreneur, I think, has to have a very clear business plan where he or she can genuinely, hand on heart, say, I can deliver this with this much of capital. You get extra capital, please take it and put it away in a safe deposit box, in a locker. I like a safety of, I've learned it the hard way, maybe a full year. When people say, and I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs, one a day actually at least, and how much money do you have in the bank? And he says, oh, I've got 6 months, there's plenty of time. I said, no, 6 months will dry up faster than you know. When the potential investor knows that you've got 6 months, you're in trouble, because then negotiation changes a lot. Please have a year, and then you start this thing. It's unfortunate, but that's the fact of life. Put that away, but deliver on your own plan. And your plan was to turn profitable in 4 years or 5 years or 3 years or 6 maybe. But normally it's 4 or 5 years. And if you can't do it in that much time, then, you know, it might not last forever. You won't get easy money forever. So I think you have to be very cognizant of it. I'll give you a small example. Pre-COVID, just in the beginning of COVID, we were minus 70 million in that year in terms of operating loss because of COVID. This last quarter, we reported just last month, actually, yeah, in May, and we reported plus 70 million. So actually a swing of $145 million with the same, we recovered, we were 6 billion gross, but there was no other choice.
Did
we
you have
had
to
to
cut
do
jobs during COVID?
It was horrible. It was very, very tough. There was some horrible, the worst thing, again, I think any founder will ever have to do is let go of people. Yes, in COVID, we did have to. Our revenues were down 96%. We let go of 10% people, and that hurts even till date. We can do it in the nicest possible way. You can take care, but the fact is you let go, and that's on me. I can't put that on anyone else. I have to take blame for that, or me and my co-founder have to take blame for that. The worst thing, that is your low. And therefore, you learn that lesson. I will never over-hire again. Now, any extra hire, you're saying, do we really need a person? Really, it's worth asking, do you really need another warm body?
I hope my human resources is not sitting here, but anyway, yeah. But Prashant, you've got investors who not just know money, but they know business like no one else, right? So tell me, what have been the conversations with, say, N. Chandra, and have you spoken with Ratan Tata? What are boardroom conversations with them like?
I think they're very supportive. They back us to do things the right way, and I think, like strong operating people that they have words of wisdom, but they are very, very evolved in the way they would not want to try to run your business either. So it's great to have the support from people who've seen quite a lot and achieved that much. Having said that, I do enjoy all the freedom that I need to operate the business. So.
Any words of wisdom, any learning that you've had from them?
Nothing that I can share right now, nothing that comes to mind straight up. I'll hold on.
I'll put you in the spotlight for that. But anyway, you both mentioned something, actually, Prashant, you mentioned that, about the regulatory environment right now. And now this 20% TCS, will that impact your business in any which way? Are people not going to want to travel abroad?
Where were you planning to go?
Well, let me not discuss my holiday itinerary here.
In jest, but on a lighter note, do it before 1st of July. Till 1st of July, there's none. You can pre-buy. We're running a campaign right now that you can actually, on a prepaid card, it's terrible. We have been going crazy. I'm wearing many hats, including association hats, whether it's CII, Tourism Committee co-chair, WTTC co-chair, and it is really, really horrible for us because, and for every traveler. Yes, you get the money back. If you pay tax and pay tax at rate of 20% more, you'll get it back. You can even get it back on a quarterly basis against your advance. Or even now they're saying you can even employers can adjust it against. So, but still it's a deterrent. You have to pay 20% more upfront. And honestly,
And it's an extra step added.
I know where it's coming from. But we all know that if you want to enlarge your tax net, there is something very big sitting out there, but you should be able to approach that. You should be able to do that. So I do not waste any opportunity where I can lobby it. This is not going to get us there. This is just going to be a hindrance. Luckily, I think people are listening, and we are hoping that it will be at least either moderated, rationalized, made easier, because if every credit card bill and this thing's going to happen, I think it's very regressive as a step. So I really think this is terrible, and definitely at some point it's going to have an impact. Let me tell you, every time fares go up, domestic fare goes up by 10%, you see an impact there and then, because there's always someone on the margin, business travel or leisure, saying, is it worth it? Or should I postpone this trip? Should I combine this trip? Should I go by, road or rail? And that is normal, right? Not everyone will say, ye to karna hai, should I make it a shorter trip? So overseas, everyone's having the same question. They're saying, like, where did this come from? And I really think this is, really excessive. And it's not good for the industry. It's not good for the consumer. I mean, this is something which everyone today aspires to do, and why not? I mean, I think it's one of the, true joys of life. It's not a vice. It's probably well-traveled means it's a very good word. It means you're actually well-versed. You should travel. You should see the world. It's a great joy. You were locked up for 2.5 years. See your country and see the world. But they're not mutually exclusive. People do both in the year. So we are hoping, and we are still fighting, and we hope to see some degree of moderation here.
But this will definitely impact foreign travel, you think?
Sure. For sure.
Prashant, similarly, there's a lot of regulation in your business as well, right? More than any other sector, perhaps, if I can think of. What's then the future? I mean, would you be able to compete with that omni-channel of your regular chemist?
So I think it's one always wishes that the regulatory regime was, I think, more than anything, easier and clearer, faster. I think that time-bound clarity is important for any ecosystem to thrive, and one does hope for that in everything we do, because see, the startups anyway are competing a battle that on multiple fronts, and for investors coming in, regulatory clarity plays a big role, and our ecosystem in that space, I think, lost quite a bit of momentum in the last 5 to 10 years due to ambiguity in various parts of the regulatory ecosystem. As the industry has matured, I think the good news is that the regulators are very actively participating and listening. The problem is that many startups don't have the luxury of that long a runway to operate or try out their innovations, especially in a regulated sector like this. So it is, from our experience, what is important for us, or what has worked really well, is actively, proactively engaging with the regulator. Since inception, we have been spending a lot of time just making sure everyone is aware of what we do, how we operate, what's the benefit of that to the ecosystem, keeping it as open, transparent possible, and doing. I used to spend 20-30% of my time just trying to explain the business model, half the time to investors and the other half to the government and regulators, and then also the media. But that is an investment that unfortunately has to be made in any regulated sector upfront. Now, going ahead, given the opportunity ahead, and we'll see a lot more sectors now, frontier tech, pretty much everything is going to go through a regulatory a kind of a conversation. As a country, we need to move a lot faster with a lot more deliberate point of view that yes, this is the way innovation should move forward. This is the way the regulatory regime will be able, will keep up or catch up with innovation. Because as you also mentioned earlier, the cycles of everything are actually going much shorter. So we are already way too late to the generative AI game, the large language models and all that stuff, but there's so much more happening and we have to catch up, and very, very fast. So a lot of good stuff is needed on the regulatory side. I think people understand it. It's just now the time is moving a little too fast and we need to move fast.
Awakening is happening now. But gentlemen, I wish we had more time. This cycle has also been short, but I hope, all our audiences could gather a little bit more about how to run a startup, and a successful one. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.